All right, so today, right now, we're going to be talking about the difference between animals and humans. And this is a very humbling talk. And this is a talk that it's something that I've noticed, and that when I realize it, it really helps expand my awareness. And in a way, it makes me happy. It really does, because it shows you the reality of things, how things really work. Because as humans, we inherently think we're better than everybody else, right? We started off with, the world being the center of the universe. I remember when I was a kid, I used to think I was the strongest kid in the world until I got punched in the face. I was like, you know what? I think I was wrong. So that's the thing. And so what we're going to be noticing is that just because an animal doesn't have the ability to think, doesn't have the faculties of thinking, doesn't mean they're not conscious. Doesn't mean they're not more conscious than we are, as opposed to another animal. All right, because there are different forms of consciousness that humans don't have access to. Now, when I'm talking about consciousness, it's what arises from our faculties. For example, like there's the expression of consciousness in thought, right? Without consciousness, there wouldn't be any thought, even though the faculties to think are there. If someone's dead, it doesn't matter how beautiful their brain is, they won't be able to think. Consciousness is the animating force that brings it to life, and you're like, I'm here now. You see, it doesn't matter what kind of animal you are, all right? You're still going to be conscious. Now, the expression of the consciousness only depends on the faculties that you have. For example, if you're a dog and you're awakened as a dog, right? You're going to experience a different experience, same consciousness, different experience, because the experience depends on the different kinds of faculties that you have. So you wake up as a bird. Now you're able to see ultraviolet radiation, some shit like that, right? That's an expression of consciousness, because consciousness is what perceives experience. You see, so you're able to access that consciousness. We don't have that access to that kind of consciousness. You see, apes are like primates, but they don't have the ability to think like we do. They don't have the ability to future project, to plan out like we do to that extent. So they don't have that ability for consciousness. They don't have that advanced version of consciousness. Now, other animals, for example, I don't know, let's say a bird, or like a bat. Bats are able to have sonar radiation, like they're able to see with their ears. That's another form of consciousness, you see. And so what's going to happen is that, let's say that you're a cockroach and you lose an antenna, right? Because your antenna helps you see some shit like that. You lost that form. You just lost some expression of consciousness. You see, so who are you really? What's the difference between animals and humans? There's no difference. We just have different faculties, but the same force that brings it to life is the same force. For example, my computer, like I have my computer, like a computer, right? It doesn't matter how different the computer is. You may have a computer that's bigger, you may have a computer that's smaller. The same electricity that animates the computer is the same electricity that animates another computer. The same electricity that animates my cell phone. Different forms of consciousness. The electricity in this case is the consciousness. You see? And so it doesn't matter how different the animals is. There is no difference. Like, that animal is conscious. The animal is seeing you, and it has different faculties, different ways of expressing consciousness. You see, for example, if we were on another part of the universe and life would emerge, right? It doesn't matter the kind of life that emerges. You see, it's an expression of consciousness. You see? And for example, like a tall animal doesn't have. And there's another thing that fascinates me is that a tall animal doesn't make him any more conscious because it's more complex. You see, like, another thing about consciousness is that consciousness is unlimited. You see, it's unlimited. So, for example, like, just because you're short doesn't mean you have a shorter consciousness, because consciousness is simple awareness. Like, you need faculties to experience consciousness. You lose your faculties. Like, let's say you're dead. Let's say you can't see, you can't see, hear, or move, or even sense. Let's say you had a brain injury, you're still conscious, because if you go to the hospital and they repair the brain circuitries, whatever, in the nervous system, you'll be able to come back to life, and now you're aware. Now you're using your consciousness, but you were still alive, but you just didn't have the faculty to express it. You see what I'm saying? So you are not the body. Like, you are the body, right? Yeah, you are, right? But because it's made out of your consciousness, but you are the expression. Like, we confuse ourselves with the expression. We're not the expression, the body, the mind. I am not the mind. I am the one who's aware of the mind. I am not the space. I mean, I am not the body. I am the space. Without the space, there wouldn't be any objects. You see what I'm saying? So just because an animal is taller doesn't mean the animal is more conscious, just simply because it's more conscious. For example, like I could have a body, right? And I could be aware of my body, right? It doesn't matter how many limbs I grow, how many different parts I grow, I can still become aware of all of those functions if I'm conscious. You see? So just because an animal in the same site, just because an animal is more intelligent or more complex like human are, doesn't mean a bacteria is less conscious. It's just expressing consciousness in different ways. A little bit of consciousness doesn't mean it's more per se. Consciousness is consciousness. You see, it's part of the whole. You see, it doesn't make it any less than something else. All right. It's kind of like this. It's kind of like consciousness. It's kind of like gold, right? You could have gold and you could mold that gold into any form you want. You see, when you see that gold from the perception of the human being, you don't see the gold, you see a ring. You see whatever it's shaped to be. But it doesn't matter what happens to that ring, how deformed it's going to be. It could lose its identity as a ring, but it'll never lose its identity as a gold. As gold. You see? Like you can morph it in different ways, but it doesn't lose its essence. The same way consciousness could express itself in the form of a dog, but that doesn't mean the consciousness, the essence of the consciousness is any different from me or you. So the same, like for example, like dinosaurs who died, poor little dinosaurs, right? When they died, they were conscious just like me and you. Like they just saw it from their perspective. You see? Like if you gave a brain, if they put you in the brain of a pterodactyl, right? You'll be a pterodactyl, like little pterodactyl and shit, right? And you won't have the faculties we have, but you will still be conscious. That's the experience that's constant in all of these different changes. You could change the time, you could change the date, you could change your physical sensations, you could change your environment, you could change your fucking species. It'll still be conscious as long as it's alive. You see? Like the earth, right? You could kill the earth, you could go through a volcanic explosion, and kill all life, right? But put the right conditions on earth and life will arise. Now put the earth in a different point of the universe, right? Put it under the same conditions, different point of the universe, same conditions, and life will still arise if you have the right conditions. So what does this mean? Is that consciousness has no fucking location, has no limit. If the conditions are there, life will arise. It means that life is everywhere. The potential consciousness is everywhere. Everywhere. The expression that you see, like the expression, that's what consciousness is. You see, like this is not a cup, right? This is just an expression of my consciousness. It's kind of like when you're in a dream. When you're in a dream, like what you see is not objects that's outside yourself. What you see is yourself, because it's being created in your fucking head, right? I mean, you're not seeing a dream, you're seeing yourself. You're seeing the expression of what's going on inside of you. You're not really in a location, right? You're just creating it in your mind, right? So when you see in the world, it's kind of like the same, like it's being created, it's self-created, self-generated, so that if you have different faculties, if you couldn't see color, suddenly the world would not be colorful, you see? So now you're going to experience the world in a different way. You have different faculties and you have different expressions. All right. And so what's the point in all of this? Because I'm trying to find a point. Is that we're not different from animals. That's I'm like, oh shit, I gotta come up with something, right? I just thought this was interesting, right? And so what I find interesting about this is that like there's no difference between me and other animals, and it really makes me feel sad when I see animals in the wild and all that sort of stuff, because they're in the wild and they're gonna die and get eaten. Like they're gonna die and get eaten, and eventually that's inevitable, right? And it makes me feel sad for the poor little dinosaurs. I was watching their extinction, and we're so into ourselves that we lose we lose our perspective that things are conscious around us. That's how fucking stupid we are as a species. We think we're the only conscious being, but there's so much consciousness in the world. Like a bee is conscious. You don't think a fucking bee chooses to go like, you don't think that's a fucking conscious decision to do this shit? Like that's a conscious decision. That's a conscious decision. They're conscious. You see? And so from that perspective, that's where evil arises. It's a lack of empathy, lack of understanding of how things really are. And so we see an animal, we don't give a fuck. We just say that's an animal. Fuck that shit, right? And we kill it. I feel bad for chickens. Chickens must hate us, you know? I bet there's like a chicken out there like fucking trying to plan on how to kill humans. I bet so, right? That's what I would do if I was a chicken. Because Chicken Run was not a fucking movie. Chicken Run was a hope. Chickens saw that movie and they were like, ka-ka-la, ka-ka-la, watch that movie. One day we take over the world. You know, chickens are dinosaurs. Like, there really are mini dinosaurs. So when you eat a chicken, you be like, oh man, that's a good, does it taste like dinosaur? Because that's a dinosaur chicken. That's just a dinosaur that fucked up somewhere in evolution, right? So yeah, man, like, this is done through meditation, realizing the true nature of existence, the true nature of reality. You do it through meditation, observing yourself. Something that I've been doing lately is just noticing my hand. Like, literally just noticing your hand, noticing how your hand feels throughout your daily life. And so what's going to happen is that, like I always say, your attention is going to go from your brain, because when you're noticing your thoughts, it animates your thoughts. It's kind of like shining a light. When you notice it and you identify with your thoughts, you're going to start thinking fucking crazy, right? But anyways, I'm going out of the subject. Anyways, it's Alex from myfairtraction.org. If you guys have a question, let me know. Goodbye.